John Fox just finished as media director for Catsimatidis' 2013 mayoral campaign. Before working for John, I was selling both radio and print. I had a relationship with the Catsimatidis family, and I was fortunate enough they kind of recognized that I could do some things for them in the campaign. And shortly after John announced that he was going to run, we spoke and we got together, and that was about in February, and that ran through, of course, election night on September 10th. Probably the best day for us was when we got our first television commercial finished, the finished product. It was kind of the unofficial restart of the campaign. I think John was really excited to see what was offered in the first spot and jump in there with the first television spot of either Democrat or Republican. The worst day, I guess, of the campaign. I guess anytime you don't finish first in a campaign, that's the worst day is probably election day. We finished second on election night, and I guess you can look at it in terms of being a negative, but the day itself was fantastic. I think as returns came in, we started to realize that, you know, we had done some pretty big things. John delivered over 40% of the vote. That being said, of course, at the end of the night, you say goodbye to some people you know you're not going to work with again, and that kind of became, I guess, the worst day. Probably the best advice would be to, you know, be true to yourself and continue to do what you did to get to where you are. I think one of the things I enjoyed working on this last campaign the most was that John really ran on his own story. John really ran on his own record. He continued the morals and the values in the campaign that he used in his daily life with his family, and that was kind of leading by example. And I don't think maybe in terms of there was no great piece of advice, you know, cliche or saying out of a book, but leading by example, and I think that was probably the most powerful. You know, I think ever since moving to New York, you kind of find them all over the place. I don't think they're necessarily people you see on headlines. I think they're people you work for over the years, and those are the people, for me personally, my idols and have been the people I've learned the most from. I worked for the Buckley family at WOR Radio, which is coincidentally right down the street, and they were a tremendous influence on me. And maybe not in the political atmosphere, but in the media atmosphere, they did kind of teach me, you know, one, how to be very successful, and two, how to do it the right way, and I think that's very important. My ideal weekend, let's see, spending it with my lovely girlfriend Julie. If there's a football game or a baseball game on, that'd be great, and sitting out in my patio here in New York City and enjoying the fall.